Welcome to the Profitable NDIS Provider Podcast, where we're joined by your hosts, Tania Gomez and Paul Bryan. In each episode, we'll be sharing valuable insights and tips to help you turn your NDIS business into a profitable venture. So whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, you've come to the right place. Let's stop surviving and start thriving.
Welcome to the Profitable NDIS Provider Podcast. My name is Tania and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Paul. Hey, Paul, welcome back.
G'day. It's so lovely to be a wonderful co-host. I just absolutely love that. Thank you so much. It's great to
something else, actually. I was going to say my terrible co-host, but
I'm sure you could probably put anything there you like. Let's get a word generator to start hammering those out. Hey, look, today we are joined by an amazing human, Amy. Amy, welcome here. Please give us a bit of introduction. Tell us about yourself.
Hello, I'm Amy Gray. So known as founder of NDIS Blackbelt, right? But let's be honest, more important to that, I like to be known as a parent of a really beautiful member of our community, Illyana. She's a member of our complex and profound disability community. And it's kind of gives me the opportunity to see the sector from a little bit of a different angle. I guess she's 19 now. So I was able to have the opportunity to live what a lot of people in the sector can only kind of talk about. You know, like there's lots of conversations about systems and forms and policies and procedures. And those things kind of didn't just pass me, they hit my life. So, you know, joining the sector, NDIS sector, I was able to join with a bit of a different view. And I guess that's the beauty, isn't it, of allowing that lived truth in, because sometimes when it's done really well, it's the most effective way to sharpen strategy. And that's really what we bring with NDIS Blackbelt. But also when we talk at events and speak on podcasts, we love to give as much as we possibly can, because I think for us, it's a little bit sort of deeper. It's about kind of breaking through, you know, layers of fatigue and a bit of distrust in the sector and disconnect to bring us all back to who we are as the core of this industry. But, you know, really at the heart of it, right, I'm just someone who really cares and who really is out here trying to do something useful. So thank you very much for having me on today.
Yeah, of course. It's lovely to have you. That's a beautiful introduction. I don't know if you practiced that in the mirror, but it was very well done, very beautiful. And the episode today, you suggested the episode title of Personal Pain to Professional Purpose. So I was intrigued reading that. And obviously we've all had some personal pain and we all want to make a difference and have some purpose in our lives. So you've mentioned your daughter there. Can you take us back to the beginning to what that personal journey has been and how you decided to make this into a professional purpose?
So the shift, I guess, from personal to professional, you know, it's a great question, isn't it? Because it is actually cornerstone of what we do at NDIS Blackbelt. And for me, it wasn't like a sudden thing. It was this really, to be brutally honest, and let's just be as truthful as we possibly can, right? It was a really long, difficult awakening. You know, my name is Amy Gray, right? All of the stuff we do professionally is great, but I've actually lived as an unpaid support worker for my daughter, Illyana, for 19 years. And she is medically complex, right? So for me, my life was ultimately for many years sort of not measured in birthdays or milestones, but in things like medication changes that actually worked, right? Ambulance trips, seizures, and how many nights, I suppose, for such a long time, you know, could I go without sleep? And, you know, for us, bear with me, right? I'm a writer by trade as well. So I'm a nurse and I do all this stuff in the NDIS, but I'm a massive storyteller. I think that is really where the medicine is, right? So for us, I did a lot of work trying to hold things together in a system that was actually, like, to be honest, it was never really designed for families like mine, right? And I'm talking about 19 years ago, giving birth to a child with complex and profound disabilities, and trying to work in the Australian workforce. There was no pause button. There's no extra sick leave for carers. I had to raise my son and pay a mortgage, right? And somehow try and show up as a decent person in the middle of it. And this is the part that changed, yeah? It changed everything for me. It was like I had thought that they were years of just sort of surviving, and loads of families will tell you the same thing. You feel like you're just surviving. And over time, I started to realize it wasn't just sort of shaping me as a mother. It was kind of shaping me as a professional and as a voice that now is sort of understanding what the system, could give a little differently. And I started to see, right, that this wasn't just my family's story. This was a bit of a reflection of the state of the sector itself. And I've said this before, there was a bit of a gap between what families like mine truly needed and what the sector, despite its best efforts, was able to deliver. And right there I was, sort of sitting in that gap. And I was living in it, and I was raising kids in it, and I was paying bills in it and trying to navigate that system. And, bear with me, right? It wasn't that people didn't care. I never doubted that for 1 second. In fact, within this sector, I've had the most extraordinary acts of kindness from so many different people who go above and beyond their job description. It was about sort of trying to fix that gap, because it wasn't just me in it. There was loads of families sort of living in it. And it was really, that's where my personal journey started to shift into professional purpose, because I raised my kids like this. If I've seen it, I must acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And
it's brave though. I reflect on I'm a mum of 4. I don't have a child with disability, but I have a child who has a lot of medical conditions. He's my 3rd son. And I personally don't know if I could work in that space, like to live in that space and work in that space. And like the first child I ever looked after with a disability, he's 23 now, so similar age as your daughter. And he has cerebral palsy. His mum was a couple of years older than me. We're still friends. And she's a teacher. We both went to teachers college together. And I asked her one time, why wouldn't you be a special needs teacher? You have the most experience ever with working with special needs. And I was becoming a special needs teacher. And she was like, I just need something that's not about disability. I just need something that isn't about making my son's life better and is a brief moment outside of the chaos of living with disability every day. And at first, when I heard that, I didn't know how to feel about that. I was a little bit like, oh, that's a little bit shocking that you want to, I hadn't had children at that stage. Now I totally understand wanting something outside of your children. But at the time, I wasn't sure how to feel about that. But you really have embraced that idea of not just improving your child's life, but actually other children like your child, and I guess, just the general disability community. So do you get overwhelmed and burnt out from trying to change a system that, at least from my perspective, sometimes feels very broken?
You know what? I'm the king of burnout. I've burned out that many times that you kind of realize that you become invincible. The issue for me was I seen the gap, and I must address the gap.
Yeah.
And I figured to myself, so like on the 19th of January 2023, I registered the mother company, which is Disability Culture Crew Australia. And that had a mission statement as clear as it gets, right? 3 little words: change the culture. And so all of the frameworks I've built, and I've got a few, they're really reflections of that decision. They're not just products, they are translation of my lived experience into something that organizations and staff can actually use, right? And you're right, it's big and it's bold. And Ian Coker put it best to me years ago. We were sitting having a drink with his lovely wife at a pub in Bondi or somewhere, and he said to me, you know, like sort of scratching his bald head, and he said, you know, looking at what I was kind of proposing to do, he said, Amy, you sort of understand the scale of what you're talking about, right? The enormity of it, because it is just a brand new industry, isn't it? And I just shrugged my shoulders. And I said, you know, the thing that I live by, which I've raised my kids by, if I've seen it, I must acknowledge it. And you're right, it has been enormous. And it has felt too big at times, but I believe it's necessary, because I think if we can kind of bridge that gap, which is not hard, we don't just improve services and improve the way businesses feel about themselves and the way they do business, we kind of change lives.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like a long-winded version of how the professional side was born.
Yeah. Look, you've obviously gone through so much over that period of time, and it's given you so much information and background. And how have you sort of applied those challenges that you've faced personally to the professional side of your business? What does that look like when you're helping, I guess, providers develop their internal strategy now?
I'm not sure how to answer that, right? But I can say this. I spent years working in the industry myself. I'm a nurse by trade, right? And the truth is, it was the lived experience that sort of shaped how I see the NDIS and how I understand culture, and actually why I know where the cracks are. Because when you live inside those cracks, like families, you see them up close, yeah? So those cracks became my training ground. And it's those cracks that I built my products. And those cracks kind of taught me what it is to survive. How do you survive doing this for a long period of time? How do you survive high stakes, emotionally heavy work? They showed me that culture and accountability and retention are not just abstract, right? They're life and death in this industry. It showed me that culture isn't built with rules. It's built with like rhythm. We talked a little bit about this at your conference, and rhythm comes from repetition. And this is actually what I learned. And that's why I built some of those frameworks. We talked about the 5 R's of retention. We've got the Breaking Barriers workshop series that I take into providers, but we've also got the Culture from Day One, plug and play induction manual. The 5 R's of retention, right, was actually built out of living through turnover and instability in support services, and knowing what it costs families, but what it costs staff. And what it costs owners. Breaking Barriers, the workshop series that I take around, it came out of seeing what happens, right, when our organisations can't, for lack of a better word, equip their workers properly from day one.
Yes. Sorry, yeah.
They're not abstract, you know, that they're, as they're a real translation of experience that I've turned into something that actually can change the culture. And really, it's just my way of turning hard years into something that staff and organizations can kind of lean on.
I guess all those challenges have informed the way that you're working with the providers, with the culture of their business. And I know from people that we've sort of had conversations with, they're really diving in there and going, I've never thought about it from, say, that perspective.
Yeah.
And they get a whole new, fresh set of eyes, because the challenges you've faced have informed how you're training support workers and how you're training providers on developing that culture, which has opened up a whole new, I guess, world to a lot of providers in regards to, you know, we have the bit of experience that I have as a provider, but now we open up to be so much wider to be able to go, right, here's what it actually looks like from the person's perspective when they've got, well, to be honest, strangers coming in their house every day to help them with some of their most intimate moments. Right?
Yeah. How can we support staff, right, to do that well? if we've never had it done ourselves. And we can't all have that done, but I think it's worth asking the question. It's worth addressing. And this is what I keep saying, right? There is a real beauty allowing that lived truth in. And I say this, right? Sometimes, not all the time, you know, not everyone's story can be hugely sort of helpful on every single issue, right? But when it's done well, it is the most effective way to sharpen a business and to sharpen strategy. That's what I think. And I see it work. And I was chatting to one of the guys that develops all of the lovely stuff for NDIS Blackbelt. He puts lots of things up on LinkedIn and he does a great job. And I keep saying to him, I feel really confident, right, that we can say Amy Gray, 3 hours changes everything. Because you're right, Paul. We're having conversations about stuff that perhaps wasn't thought about, but this is the stuff that's most impactful, I think. And I think that because I live it. I roster somewhere between 80 and 100 hours in my own home every week and have done for many, many years. And they're actually small changes. So it's not an enormous scale that we're now having to dive into something enormously expensive or things like that. It's actually changing the way we think. And then doing this thing, like I'm a writer. I'm not sure. Here it is here, right? I'm a writer. So I believe in language, right? And I said this at your conference. This is what goes with our workshops. And I'm not trying to plug it, but I'm trying to say within those workshops, we change the way they speak. It's called the language of us. And that's how we build culture. And it's actually pretty simple. It is beautiful. So Paula maybe had a chat to you about, you know, the emotions in the room when we actually start to build culture about who we are as an industry and who these organizations actually are. It's a beautiful thing.
Do you ever struggle with being too close to the work? And kind of, I guess, it's more around how do you balance then the heart with the strategy? Does it, you know, does it ever become a problem?
Absolutely. Yep. 100%. Like your friend was saying, right? When you've lived the work and when it's your child and your family and your mortgage and your sleepless nights, and then you get up and you work in the industry, it's almost impossible sometimes not to be too close. And for like a long time before I was doing this, when I was just working in the industry, that closeness, it can feel like a vulnerability, right? I learned a couple of things. Like I learned the hard way that concepts like heart without structure, right, will burn you out. And strategy without heart will hollow you out. And I think the lesson after all of these years is, oh gosh, Amy, sustainability means you need to find a way to weave those two things together.
Yeah.
So I think like the turning point, which it was I have struggled, being too close, but the turning point was sort of realizing that closeness didn't need to be a liability if I gave it a bit of structure, and that's sort of where strategies start to come in. And I was able to translate some of the rawness, right, of my personal experience into frameworks that I knew worked.
Yeah, amazing. Look, you've mentioned how personal and close this is, and like where you've come from here. What do you hope your children see when they look at the work that you're doing in this journey?
Do you know what? You guys will feel the same. It's such a beautiful question, isn't it? I hope, like my son, Gondola, he's 21, and I hope young Illyana, she is going to be 20 in February. I hope when they look at the stuff that I've done, and that they sort of see past, you know, the business and the programs, I hope they sort of see that promise, you know, to do good with the pain. And I was speaking on another podcast, I think last week, and they asked a little about my childhood. And I remember, like, this is actually me, Amy Gray, right? As a little girl, I didn't have the greatest upbringing, but I made this promise to myself, right, that the things that hurt me would not go to waste. and that promise has really meant something to me. And it wasn't easy raising a young person prior to the NDIS, even after the NDIS, with complex and profound disabilities. And I actually wanted to use that pain and turn it into a promise that could take root. And I think that's, that's sort of what we're doing in NDIS Blackbelt. That, as I say, like, NDIS Blackbelt is not just about products. It is my promise in action. And it's proof, right, to my kids. I hope this is what they see, right? That you can alchemize pain into something that serves other people.
Mm.
And I hope they see that legacy. And my son's had some hard circumstances at the moment, and I I could see that he took the lead from me, that even in the hardest circumstances, you can actually do good with the things that have hurt you or the things that have challenged you.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it's true resilience, but in many ways there's that saying, and I might get it wrong, but it's something like necessity is the mother of invention, right? That we wouldn't have had to come up with these ideas or these solutions if there weren't these problems in the first place. And really that's where the best life-changing ideas, as you talked about, really come from, is that idea of I can solve this problem. And I really loved your, you didn't say these words, but for me, it's very much like, well, if not me, then who? Like, and why not
Yes.
me?
Yes.
Why wouldn't it be me that solves this problem? Because it is me who's lived this problem, and therefore, if I can solve it once, potentially we can solve it many times over.
Yes, and my people, complex and profound disability community, my people have fought a long time, and they're tired. They've had a lot of no's. Things have not been easy, and it's not always easy for us to have the time and energy to build these companies and to be heard, or to be in spaces where you're actually not heard. That's sort of, hard too. And you're right, if not me, then who? And I could talk underwater, so like I'm a great advocate.
What's the one thing you want providers to take from your work and your story?
This is something that I've been thinking about recently, right? I think we need to shift just a little bit. This industry can't be seen as theoretical. It is personal, right? This is human to human. Because, right, what we do is when we strip away some of the things that mean we're a business, like paperwork and price guides and the endless bloody acronyms, right? What's left is people holding people. So the one thing I want them to take away is that better be your culture. This is Amy Gray here, right? Culture is everything. Culture is king. We are not building a workforce. We are building nervous systems.
Love it.
And these nervous systems, our organizations, right, they breathe and they contract and they flinch and they stabilize and they respond to pressure and energy and tone and trust, right? And understanding that changes everything. And it's a great reminder that culture is built in here. And it's not built in our policies. Mind you, I've got hundreds of them sitting on my desk at the moment, right? And very much my story shows what happens when culture is not there or culture cracks, because families like mine fill those cracks first.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
So-
that's the truth. I want them to take away that, culture has to be built in our habits, like what is said and what is tolerated, over and over again. And I go back to the concept of language, build your culture intentionally, or, get someone in to help you do it. And we need to make these things habits. That's why, these workbooks, I say to the staff in the workshops, put them in your shift bag, right? Flick them open, use the terminology in there, because that's how our habits become visible and audible. They become reflexes. That's just the way we speak. That's just the way we think. It's not just culture. Yeah, it's cultural tattooing.
Mhm.
And it only happens, like, what is a tattoo? Like, it's deliberate, isn't it? And it's chosen. And habits only form with deliberate repetition.
Yeah. Love it. Look, thank you so much for sharing so much of your own story and how that's impacted your professional purpose and how you're working with providers. If someone wants to find out more or have a chat with you, how would they do that?
I'm not really good on the social media stuff, but I think you can type in NDIS Blackbelt or Amy Gray on lots of social media platforms. LinkedIn is a good one.
Yep.
I think we've got a website, ndisblackbelt.com. Or just
Awesome.
find us on LinkedIn.
Yeah, amazing. You're pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. So NDIS Blackbelt. Look, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been fantastic to chat, learn more about it. And thank you to all our listeners as well. Hit like and subscribe. We don't ask a lot, but we'd love you to. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Profitable NDIS Provider podcast with Tania Gomez and Paul Bryan. We hope you found today's episode informative and valuable. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a rating, and share it with others who could benefit from our insights. Until next time, keep thriving.